So, sir, welcome to our platform. And as we have, communicated to everyone earlier that this is the topic, Tunji Ojo, Betta Edu, and a melting crossfire or conflict of interest. So, as we would have it, the first thing we'd like to know is tell us about your experience, your background, or just the general information about you that we can hang on to.
Well, I'm in Nigeria from Cross River State. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a public analyst, an author, and also a traditional ruler. I live in Abuja. Yes. Is that okay for you?
Okay, you are a traditional ruler who lives in Abuja, and
yes,
you're a public
I'm a
analyst.
traditional ruler.
Have you served?
Yes.
Okay. Have you served in any public
Oh,
office
okay.
before?
I was the senior special assistant to President Buhari from 2016 to 2019, 29th of May 2019. I was also the chairman, Special Presidential Investigation Panel for the Recovery of Public Property. July 2017 to 11th August 2019. I was also the acting secretary of the Administration of Criminal Justice Monitoring Committee, which is a unit in the Federal Ministry of Justice. The committee is set up pursuant to the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. And the responsibility of the committee is to monitor the implementation of the provisions of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, which essentially was enacted to ease expeditious hearing of criminal cases, decongest our prisons, and so forth and so on. Yeah. Are you there?
Okay. Sorry. I was saying that I wanted us to learn more about you, or just some brief details about you. For example, your profession or occupation. Maybe you are a journalist or a lawyer or anything at all. Let us just know. Let the people who are going to.
Yes, I have mentioned before that I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
Was called to the bar about 33 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. I'm also a public analyst and a commentator of public issues or public affairs. I'm also a traditional ruler.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm also a politician. I belong to the APC.
Okay. And sir, we want to ask some few questions from you based on the topic. That's Betta Edu, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, and in understanding this. So now the first question is, what are the legal implications of the alleged embezzlement of public funds by the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, and Poverty Alleviation? That's Dr. Betta Edu. What are the alleged legal implications of the alleged embezzlement of public funds. So let us just know what the law says in regards to how she has embezzled, what she embezzled, and then we can delve into further issues about the embezzlement.
Well, investigation is still ongoing, and we shouldn't be saying anything that will prejudice the investigation. But without going into the details of the matter, all the allegations against her was that she instructed the Accountant General of the Federation to transfer 585 million naira to a private account. And if that is true, then it means the provisions of paragraph 713 of the federal government financial regulations has been violated by her. The intent or the import of paragraph 719 is that nobody should pay money from a private account to an account belonging to the federal government of Nigeria. Conversely, nobody should pay money from an account belonging to the federal government of Nigeria to a private account. And furthermore, paragraph 713 also says any officer of the federal government that directs payment of money belonging to the federal government to a private account is guilty of fraudulent intent. Yes. Then also, if you look at the provisions of the Money Laundering Act, under the Money Laundering Act, you are not supposed to pay money, above certain thresholds. So if amounting to about 585 billion naira is transferred to another person's account, that account is supposed to be red flagged by the bank, and a complaint lodged with the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency. That account will it's a case of a possible case of suspicious transaction, because, for instance, we were told that account is a salary account. So averagely, that account should be receiving maybe 200,000 naira or 300,000 naira, as the case may be, or even 100,000 naira. So if an amount that is in the region of 585 million naira is transferred to that account, it is inconsistent with the pattern of transaction of that account. So the bank should immediately raise a red flag that something suspicious is going on, and then alert the appropriate law enforcement agency, which I have mentioned, in Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit. So that is it. And then also the contract. Some contracts have been awarded. Were those contracts awarded in consonance with the provisions of the Procurement Act? Was there a bidding? Was that contract advertised? How many people bidded for that contract? Or under what circumstances was those contracts awarded to those companies that we saw? So these are all legal issues that can crop up. If investigations prove otherwise, then we can see a possible charge on violation of the provisions of the Procurement Act. We also maybe a charge on Money Laundering Act of 2022. And also a case of possible embezzlement or misappropriation of funds belonging to the federal government or stealing. So that is what I have to say in that respect.
Okay, thank you for answering our question, regarding the problem with the legal implications or whatnot. But then, even if she was wrong, isn't there shouldn't there have been some sort of investigative panel to see to that issue, or is the suspension, from the president, was it legal? Was that suspension legal?
Well, it is very legal. It is it's in tune with the procedures for dealing with church cases in the public service. An allegation is made against a public officer. The most appropriate thing is to place that public officer on suspension pending investigation, because the system does not want maybe the public officer to interfere with investigation. You cannot be in an office and then you are under investigation. You may not allow the investigators access to documents they want. You may also want to conceal some of the documents that may implicate you. Nobody wants to get into trouble. Or you may instruct your staff not to cooperate with investigators. So the appropriate thing is to place that officer under suspension. And remember that a minister is appointed, at the discretion of Mr. So the law says, if I have the power to appoint you, I also have the power to remove you. I also have the power to suspend you. If you go through the provisions of the Constitution Act, it says that whoever has the power to appoint you also has the power to remove that appointer or appointee, and he also has the power to suspend that appointee. So everything about our suspension is in tune with the rule of law.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer, sir. And then the third question I'll be asking is, how do you access the role of the EFCC in investigating the scandal and ensuring accountability?
Well, if you look at the provision, if you look at the provisions of the Economic and Financial Crimes Act 2004, the EFCC is empowered to investigate matters like that, financial, economic crimes. And this matter has to do with, it's an economic crime. It's also a financial crime. Also, it's also money laundering. So, and it's also corruption. It's so all these issues fall under the purview or the scope or the ambit of the EFCC, what the law has vested on EFCC to do.
Okay, good. Since we have established the fact that the EFCC has the jurisdiction to investigate all these things, the next question we'll be asking is, what are the ethical and constitutional issues surrounding the alleged involvement of the Minister of Interior, Honorable Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, in securing a consultancy contract from Dr. Edu's ministry through his company, or let me say the company he founded, since he claimed that he doesn't have an active role in the government and he's just a shareholder, but he's passive in the process, in decision-making process. But then how do we look at this thing ethically or constitutionally? Is he clean constitutionally, or is it just some sort of ethic or moral baggage that he would have to carry with this allegation?
Well, ethically, it is wrong. And you know that even though when we are talking about ethics, we are talking about morals. And we used to say that morals is a very variable concept, because what may be morals is given society maybe not be morals in another society. But in this case, if you look at the provisions of the Code of Conduct, enshrined in the 5th Schedule, Part 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Code of Conduct are intended to maintain ethical standards and moral rectitude in the public service. So the Code 1 or Paragraph 1 of Part 1 of the 5th Schedule says no public officer should do anything that will be in conflict with his duties and schedules. So when a minister of the Federal Republic, like Tunji Ojo, set out to use a company that he has substantial interest, a company that is a shareholder, a company that his wife is managing director, to bid for a contract in a ministry that is under the control of its colleague in the cabinet, then the whole thing becomes a case of conflict of interest. His conflict of interest here is his position as a minister of the Federal Republic, and also being a shareholder in a company that bidded and got contracts. There is an assumption or that he used his influence as a minister, maybe to prevail on his colleague to award that contract to his company. It cannot be excluded or exonerated simply because he said he resigned his directorship of that company in 2019. But he also admitted that he kept his shareholding. He's a shareholder. What is a shareholder? A shareholder is one of the owners of a company, and a shareholder is entitled to dividends. At the end of every financial year, companies that have earned profits, they share, they distribute their profits to shareholders. So at the end of the year, Minister Tunji Ojo would likely be a beneficiary of the profits that his company has earned, arising from the contracts that he got from Minister Betta Edu, who is his colleague in the Council of Ministers of the Federation of Nigeria.
So, but like the point we are really trying to drive at is that, okay, fine, maybe he's ethically wrong, but then are there extant laws that would bind him to this suspension process and investigation process? Because I don't think there's any hard evidence or any substantial evidence that has come to alleges or prove his direct involvement. Because since the ministerial code says that one is
you don't need to be directly involved in the something to be liable. We also have the law of aiding and abetting, conspiracy. Okay, so I don't understand what you mean by he was not directly involved. He was involved directly and indirectly, because he admitted that he's still a shareholder and that the wife is the managing director of that company. And incidentally, is the same company that was awarded a contract that was awarded by his colleague in the cabinet. So it's very, very suspicious. So if investigation establishes that he used his influence, maybe to prevail on his colleague to award that contract to his company, then it's involved directly or indirectly.
So, like, fine, now that we know that he's involved, does it then mean that everyone who owns a share in that company will be investigated?
Well, if it comes to that, the company has legal personality. And in certain cases, the law can lift the veil, to see who are the directors of this company. If it is shown that the company is involved in perpetuation of fraud, So it is one of the instances that the corporate veil, what we call the corporate veil, will be taken away to see who are the directors of that company. And if the directors of that company are on revel, they can also be liable for commission of a crime. So companies can also face trial. Companies can also be arraigned in courts. And when you are arraigning a company in court, it is not because the company is an artificial entity. It is the human beings who are running that company that will be arraigned under the name of the company.
Okay. Thank you for your answer regarding that. And the next question is, how do you evaluate the response of President Bola Tinubu to the scandal, especially his suspension of Dr. Edu and his call for a thorough probe of her ministry? Because if we say, okay, fine, let us go with the flow and let us understand the fact that the president is right to have suspended the minister or whatnot. Is he being partial to the Minister of Interior, that's Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, since he did not also suspend him on the basis of conflict of interest or some sort of alleged embezzlement, subject to the investigation by the appropriate bodies, which can be the EFCC or whatnot?
Well, I will not.
Okay.
I will not subscribe to that position you are taking. Maybe the president was briefed and he was advised that since he has set up a committee to look into the matter, or since the EFCC is investigating the matter, there may be a reason why he didn't suspend Tunji Ojo. But I am not in the position to answer that question. But I think that question better be put to maybe the advisor to the president on the media.
Okay.
I also read in the media that Minister Tunde Ojo has been invited for questioning by the Code of Conduct Bureau. Maybe because his ministry was not directly involved. Or it was not his ministry that was directly involved in the scandal. Maybe that was the reason why he was spared suspension. But let's see the outcome of the investigation by EFCC and also the special panels that were set up by the president will unravel everything. For now, everything is still in the realm of speculation.
Okay. Okay. Then we'll move on to the next question, since you have stated your position on that. And then next question is, how do you compare and contrast the scandal with the previous cases of corruption and mismanagement in Nigeria's history? For example, do you feel President Tinubu is handling the problem of corruption in ministries better than his predecessors, such as let me say the last two governments, to limit the scope of this question? In the last two governments compared to this government, do you feel this government is better off when it comes to approaching the issues of corruption with the right steps or the right channels?
Well, I think the government is too young to begin to evaluate the government approach to fighting corruption with other previous regimes. Let us watch and see. But I like the decisiveness the president has taken, directing a comprehensive investigation of the state of affairs in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. I also like what he has done also by setting up special presidential panels under the chairmanship of the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Economy. So also as the terms of reference of the special panels is also to look at, how the financial systems concerning the ministry can be improved. See, because fighting corruption is not about arresting people and detaining them or taking them to court. Fighting corruption also means you have to also come out with preventive measures. Why are people corrupt? People are corrupt because the ground is fertile, the environment is fertile for people to put their hands into government money. So what the president is trying to do is to block those loopholes. If there are loopholes, those loopholes should be blocked so that it will be very, very difficult for anybody to put his hand into public funds. So that is a better approach into fighting corruption. It is not just about locking up people. That will not, we have been doing that. We have been doing that all these years, and we have not seen results. People are, we see there's still so much corruption in Nigeria. But I see the president fighting corruption through an intellectual approach. Okay, the intellectual approach I have seen is, if you look at his direct presidential directives on consolidation and reform of how revenue collected, the federal government is collecting, or the various NDAs that revenues they are collecting, how those revenues are managed, how those revenues are channeled. Then you see that the president is fighting corruption from an intellectual perspective, other than just arresting people and locking them up. Yes, for instance, is in that presidential directive, it says all NDAs that are generating revenue, they should pay all their money to the consolidated revenue account. And they 100%, they must remit 100% of their revenue they collect to the consolidated revenue account. And their budget will be funded every year from that. I don't know if you understand me. So if, for instance, Nigerian Post Authority, if they collect 50 billion naira in a year, they have to remit 50 billion naira in a year to the consolidated revenue account. And then during budgeting process, the federal government will not set aside an amount of money to take care of the capital expenditure, recurrent expenditure of that of MP Nigerian Post Authority. The money that they have been generating, that has been paid into the consolidated revenue account, will be used to finance their budget, which will include recurrent expenditure, that is the payment of salary, allowances, and so forth and so on. Monies to run the day-to-day affairs of the Nigerian Post Authority, and also capital expenditure. Money, maybe they want to do another port in Lagos or Warri or Calabar, then they will fund it from that what they have been collecting as revenue on behalf of the federal government. And then also NDAs that are partially funded or self-funding, they will remit 50% also of the proceeds to the federal government consolidated revenue account, and their budget too will be funded from that process. So these are all anti-corruption measures that the government has put in place to reduce corruption, because there's no society where people are not corrupt, but the problem is when people are corrupt and they are caught and they are not punished.
Okay, so I really liked where you approached the question from, because most people on social media, or by and large, what they see about this corruption is when they see that maybe someone who stole a lot, gets apprehended by the government, the next thing they do is they start celebrating, they start jubilating, and some sort of stuff like that. But to me, in Nigeria, when all these I feel that Nigerian government is not doing enough, apart from the fact that they just, pick on some set of people and, target them or arrest them on sort of things like that. The thing is, the money they are getting from all these embezzlements, where is the money going to? What are these funds being used for? No one really understand, because the system itself doesn't desire any sort of accountability to the people. So now let's just move on to the next question. Next question is, how do you think the scandal affects the public perception and trust in the Tinubu administration and its anti-corruption agenda? Because different things have happened in this government. The 20 billion naira allocated to the chief of staff, and a lot of things like that. But let us just know, how do you think the scandal affects the public perception and trust in the Tinubu administration and its anti-corruption agenda?
Well, scandals will always happen in government, even in the private sector. You cannot stop people from violating the law, no matter how strict you are, no matter how strong the law is, no matter the measures they have put in place. So it is a normal thing for human beings to go against the law. And that is why we have the police, we have law enforcement agencies, we have the courts, because of the fact that it is inevitable that people will commit crime. You can't stop it. You can't stop people from committing crime. Crimes are committed every day all over the world, in the United States, in UK, and all that. But what government has to do is, to always go after the, some of them, some of the people who commit crime. You cannot catch everybody. Otherwise, our prisons will be full of, people who have committed crime. So some of them who are caught, they have to investigate and take them to court. So I don't think anybody should blame the government if a minister who has been appointed and given responsibility to distribute money to vulnerable people decides to do otherwise. You don't take it on the president. The president is not responsible. What the president is supposed to do is to fire the person. And he has done that by suspending all the people involved. So, and that is what is required of somebody who is in charge, who is a leader. But we cannot stop people from committing crime. I have to emphasize that. People will always commit crime. And the perception, that is why it is called perception. People will always perceive, this to be wrong or this to be right. It's their opinion, it's their fundamental right. But the most important thing is that the president has come out strongly to say that it is no longer business as usual. If you are caught in breaking the law, then you will be, punished, or you'll be suspended from his government. And after investigation, he may decide to fire you or prosecute you. He has done the right thing. We should give it to him. But there's no way the president can stop people from breaking the law. But if you break the law, don't be caught. If you are caught, then you should be ready to take the consequences of any action that comes out of it.
Okay. That's a very profound response to the question I asked before, and the fact that people cannot always come to terms with being in order. It is inevitable that people would commit crime and keep on committing crime. But then, let me just say, how do you think the scandal affects Nigeria's international reputation and relations? Because that fund that she embezzled was meant for the public and the welfare of the public, like that. So it brings different things to question. For example, a woman leading, things like that, and so many other things. But how does this affect Nigeria's image, both
Well,
nationally and internationally?
crime is not synonymous with Nigeria. Crime by public officials or government functionaries is not peculiar to Nigeria. We also have people in other crimes. committing crime, or high government functionaries. For instance, I was reading about, I think it's Kenya or Uganda, where a minister was also under investigation. One of these African countries. I can't, exactly remember the particular country. So it's everywhere. I don't think it has dented Nigerian image. It will only dent Nigerian image when the government fails to take steps. But the president has taken some steps. So and so I don't think it will dent Nigerian image or it will affect Nigerian image. It's everywhere, even in the United States. I was some months ago a senator in the United States of America, I think, who is the chairman of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. He was apprehended. He was charged to court for receiving bribe. So these things are not not peculiar to Nigeria. They happen in other countries. So I don't think it will affect Nigeria's image. It will affect Nigerian image if the government fails to take steps, if the government fails to investigate, if the government fails to punish those responsible.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers. And last question I'll just ask is, how do you think Nigeria can improve its approach in?
The Nigerian can do what? Come again. Hello?
One who has been in Nigeria for... Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I didn't get, a question clearly.
How do you feel Nigeria can improve its approach in combating corruption and, these vices that come from public service?
Yes. Well, that I think the people of Nigeria should have a role to play. I don't even think Nigerians are ready to fight corruption or they see anything wrong with corruption. I would buttress with the fact that in Nigeria, if you are doing a public appointment, if you are doing an appointment in government like a minister or commissioner or permanent secretary or DG or whatever, people will start rejoicing. Okay? People will start rejoicing. They are not rejoicing because of the fact that you have earned a promotion. Some of them are expectant. They want you to benefit one way or the other when when you are in office, when you are enjoying the public office appointment. They want you to award them contracts. They want you to patronize them. They want you to buy vehicles for them. They want you to buy cars for them. They want you to pay school fees for their children. They want you to pay their medical bills. So there's always this pressure on public office holders to dole out money. And nobody ever asks this question: where is this public officer? Where is he getting the money from? This minister who is expected to give to buy cows, rice, money for people from his village or his state or community during Christmas, who is supposed to give money, buy food during Ramadan fasting or during Salah celebration. Where is this money coming from? Is this expenditure, is it commensurate with his income, what he's earning as a public office? And then every day you see senators doing what they call it, empowerment programs. Do we ever bother to ask, where are they getting money to buy all these vehicles, motorcycles, sewing machines, bales of rice, and so forth and so on? Where are they getting the money from? Is the money coming from their legitimate earnings as senators or members of the House of Representatives or members of the State Assembly or local government councillors or local government chairmen? Nobody asks. So in essence, what am I saying? That we are the ones that are encouraging corruption, Nigerians. Then if somebody is corrupt and is able to give money to people, everybody will turn a blind eye to the fact that this man is using his office to enrich himself, to the extent that when you leave office, if you have not empowered people, if you have not patronized people, their community will start to ostracize you. They will not begin to deride you. Oh, this man is not a good man, he's selfish. He was in power as commissioner, permanent secretary, minister, senator, members of the House of Representatives, State Assembly, and governor. And he did not do anything for his community. He didn't do anything for his brothers. He didn't do anything for his relations. I have suffered it. You know, when I finished my tenure in the public office, and some of my brothers were angry with me. They said I didn't empower them, that I was in a position to enrich myself. I didn't enrich myself, and as a result, I was able to empower them. And then some of them will even insult you. They will say you are stupid. Look at you. You were given opportunity to become a billionaire, and you did not, take advantage of the opportunity. So if we behave like that, if that is the attitude, do you see Nigeria as a country that is ready to fight corruption? It is not only on the part of the government. You see people selling, or even the POS operators taking advantage of people to cut corners, to begin to charge 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira for a simple transaction involving 5,000 naira. That is also corruption. Corruption is not just about stealing money. It's also about if you do not respect the rule of law. Nigerians do not respect the rule of law. The Nigerians are adverse to, rules and regulations. Everybody wants to cut corners. So that is also corruption. So we must make a conscious effort to say, look, this corruption, we have to support government, collaborate with government, cooperate with government to reduce corruption. We cannot eliminate corruption because it's a basic human instinct. You remember the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, where God has to bring down a whole city there, those two cities, because of corruption. Corruption it has been there from time immemorial. But what is wrong with the corruption is when you don't fight it, when you don't punish people who have been caught.
Thank you very much for your answer, and I think we've been able to have a very wonderful discussion. So thank you for coming around, and I really appreciate you for coming around. And my name is
Thank you, Emmanuel. You are a law student?
Thank you for the...
Are you a law student? Okay, yes, which year?
I'm in 200 level.
200 level, okay, very well. I wish you the best of luck. Okay. And I look forward to
thank you very much, sir.
Seeing a great lawyer in you when I am an old man. In future.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, sir. Bye-bye.